Forrest Frank shared a horrifying story about waking up and all of his music being completely deleted. He tied this into a scriptural point that I think many of us can relate to, and it's about his past label situation when he was in a group called Surfaces and how that played out when his new Christian music that was overtly worship-filled ended up blowing up, and the potential legal entanglements that he was involved in. This is a crazy situation, and I think it's important for people to understand that, like, prepare for setbacks when you lean into walking out your faith. So if you guys didn't know, Forrest Frank, a friend of the channel's, recently went back to the church in Waco, Texas, in which he was saved at, a church called Antioch Church. And at that church, he sat down with the pastor. There's a beautiful moment at the end of this that's gone viral where Corey Osbury actually comes out and leads worship for the first time in 5 years. That's not what we're going to be talking about in this video, but you really should go check out the full video on Forrest's channel. It's crushing. But there's this part of the conversation that I'm so glad he spoke about, because there's been kind of murmurings about this within the quote-unquote industry about Forrest's label situation. Once upon a time, he was in a group. It was called Surfaces. It was not Christian music, though it was like feel-good, upbeat music. And that group was signed to a label called 10K Project, a secular label. That label had folks like Trippie Redd on it and Tekashi 6ix9ine, so on and so forth. Forrest pivots as he leans more into his relationship with Jesus and then goes independent. So he thinks, as his independent music is releasing, he's released, a gang of songs, the label scoops and gobbles up everything. But he's going to tell that story, and the practical application, I think, for all of us is so refreshing. Okay, so again, this is Forrest at Antioch Church in Waco, Texas. Shout out to Antioch Church. Shout out to Forrest Frank. Let's jump into this. I'll interject a bit. If you want to see the full thing, you really should go watch it on Forrest's channel. Again, the beautiful moment with Corey Osbury coming out and leading worship for the first time in 5 years is awesome. But let's lean into this, because I think this is important.
And it's actually crazy. Like, people can say things about you online. They can bully you at school, whatever. They can try to come at your business, and you might think you need to step in and fight that battle. No, God fights the battle.
Yeah. He's basically saying that, like, look, in this life, you will have trouble. Jesus said it. We're going to go through different degrees of trouble. Now, granted, it's not the same as the apostles. It's not the same as the disciples. Many of them were martyred for their faith. But there will be some degree of trouble that we go through as followers of Jesus.
And so this is what I'm about to say here that really made this come alive. And I have to say it delicately. So all these songs are flowing out of me, and I'm releasing them. And I think I put out like 86 songs that first year, and I put out like 3 albums, and it's just God's breathing on it, and it's just going crazy. And before I say this, I just want to, I'm not attacking. I'm actually stoked that this happened.
Props to him for being so careful with his words, because what he's about to reveal next is horrifying for any artist that's ever done anything in the music business. It's pretty gnarly.
Let me just say that I accept ownership in my part of this. And anyways, I wake up one morning and all of my music is gone. Like, it's still on Apple, it's still on Spotify, it's still at these places, but my system where I release music, it's completely wiped. No notification, no email, and that's like, yeah, that's it. And I'm just, what's going on here? So I do some digging, and I realized that I had signed this record deal like 3-4 years before under a different brand name, and I had asked them if I could. This is later on. I had asked them if I could go independent, because I'm moving in a different direction. I'm making Christian music now, and they said I could on the phone.
So basically, he's sharing in the context of a verbal agreement on the phone of, hey guys, I want to go independent. I want to make Christian music. And again, Surfaces wasn't like vile secular music. It was all upbeat. He had the song, I think it's called Sunday's Best. Dope record. But now he's pivoting and he's doing stuff that's exclusively, explicitly Christian, more worship-filled stuff. He thinks he has clearance verbally over the phone or maybe through text message, but apparently doesn't get the legal release from the contract, because when you sign contracts, usually whoever you sign an agreement with, like in my case, I'm signed to a publisher for my first book, Godly Ambition. You should go get that. they have the right to go with my second book. They have the right to make an option, right? Even if the first book is fulfilled, they have the right kind of first dibs on it. And so it sounds like it was kind of one of those clauses that he got swept up in without knowing it legally, even though verbally there was a release, or so he thought, but he never got the contract sorted out. So this stuff is heavy, man.
Here I am, God's breathing on this music, and so this label, I had this option period where they had the right to ask me to make one more album. And so they somehow found a way to just pull all the music. So they owned it. They now own all.
By the way, I didn't even know labels can do that. I think he was using DistroKid at the time. DistroKid is what I use when I release music. And the fact that they can yank it from DistroKid but still leave it uploaded on Apple Music and Spotify is that's some diabolical behavior, okay? And I believe that the label he was initially signed with, I want to say, got bought out by Warner. Warner is one of the biggest labels out there, and this is kind of like a thing when people start talking about Forrest. People were trying to always find something, and I've known about the story for a while behind the scenes, but I'm glad that he's speaking about it publicly, because this is something that people will throw out there. It's like, whoa, he's good with 10K Projects and Warner and da-da-da-da. And it's like, you have no idea what was actually happening behind the scenes in the process that he was going through. So I'm so happy he's sharing this, because I think this is one of those like weird asterisks people try to put next to Forrest's name. It's like, oh yeah, well, once upon a time he was on 10K Projects and Tekashi 6ix9ine and these people and Trippie Redd are signed at 10K Projects and blah, blah, blah. And see, therefore, he's not really who he portrays himself to be. And it's like different season, not what happened. And now he is sharing this for the first time publicly, as far as I know. And so I'm super pumped that he's talking about this.
All the royalties. I spent all my time and my money making this stuff, and they just took it all. So now I don't have any income from the music. And then, so they took all 86 songs, and then they said, now we would like to exercise our right to have that one extra album.
That's crazy. They took the 86 songs he had put out himself. I want to say there was some lo-fi stuff in there. There might have been a Christmas album in there. A lot of singles he had put out that were bops. They were going crazy. And I want to say this is after the Hovey moment, where he had the initial record called No Longer Bound. And so this is around that same window of time. And they just take it in practice the option for a full album. Like, y'all got 86 songs. You're going to take the full album too? Gosh, this is crazy.
So 3 albums plus the one. And so I'm on my knees. I'm broken.
Yeah.
I'm like, God, this is your music. How is this possible? Like, I wanted to do so much good stuff. Where do I go next? I'm calling pastors. I'm calling friends, and they're like, oh, I know this attorney. So I'm at the coffee shop talking to this attorney, and here's what we're going to do, and we're going to get it back, and you're going to be fine. And, it may be a year or two of legal battle stuff, but we're going to get it back. And then in the midst of all that chaos, 2 people send me Genesis 50:20, which is what the enemy intended for evil, God intends for good.
Come on.
God flips for good. And it's the story of Joseph when his own brothers are jealous, and they throw him into slavery in Egypt. And then he just stays diligent, and he finds himself in command of Egypt. And his brothers come to him and they say, we're so sorry. We're so sorry that we threw you into the pit. And he's almost just like laughing. Like, are you kidding me? Look at me. I'm in charge of all of Egypt. Thank you for throwing me into the pit.
Yep.
And so I'm experiencing this in real time. And I just feel the Lord call me to a higher place. And so I said, okay, I'm not going to go legal. And actually, I'm going to create the greatest album I can possibly make. And I want to serve my earthly master here. I'm now a slave in this position, and I want to serve my master. I'm going to make them the greatest thing I can possibly make. And so I made Child of God, the album, and gave it to them. And then God exploded that, which then became the tour, which then became this whole thing. So that really was the linchpin on my career, was that moment where I said, I want to be a good servant. And more things have happened after that, but I've seen too much. So I'm just like, if anything comes my way, I'm just like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
Come on.
Hey, shout out to Forrest Frank. Let's look at the passage. I want to look at one passage that he's describing, but there's another passage that he's also alluding to, which we've talked about on the channel recently. So this is Joseph in Egypt. He says his brothers then came and threw themselves before him. We are your slaves, they said. But Joseph said to them, don't be afraid. I am in this place because of God. You, Joseph, being sold into slavery by his brothers, because Joseph was a dreamer. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. So then, don't be afraid. I will provide for you and your children. And he reassured them and spoke kindly to them. So one, is this beautiful moment of reconciliation, but two, it's this providential perspective that, man, what the enemy will attempt to do for evil, God will use for good. This also reminds me of what we have read in Romans. Sorry if there's a lot of scripture in this, but I think this is good because I think some of you guys might be going through similar stuff or stuff that may feel similar. Now, granted, in Forrest's case, you're talking about 86 albums plus an album, realistically, millions and millions and millions and billions and millions of dollars that got gobbled up for a business arrangement years ago. Okay. Romans 8:28 says, and we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. So all things work for good, even the bad things, even the troubling things. And so in my life, like the problem of evil often comes up and it's like, well, what about the problem of evil? And what about, bad things happening to good people and all that sort of stuff? And it's like, yeah, the very problem of evil actually points to a God, because you realize that sometimes things don't go the way they should, and therefore we understand that there's a bigger thing at play, right? Specifically, all things work for good. Now, let me point out another passage that Forrest, I would say, went above and beyond to live out here. 1 Corinthians 6, we covered this recently. It says, if any of you has a dispute with another, do you dare to take it before the ungodly for judgment instead of before the Lord's people? Or do you not know the Lord's people would judge the world? And if you are to judge the world, are you not competent to judge trivial cases? Do you not know that we will judge angels? How much more the things of this life? Therefore, if you have disputes about such matters, do you ask for a ruling from those whose way of life is scorned in the church? I say this to shame you. Is it possible that there's nobody among you wise enough to judge a dispute between believers, but instead one brother takes another brother to court, and this in front of unbelievers? So this is specifically talking about lawsuits amongst Christians in front of the pagan world. And Paul is saying, I'm saying this to shame you. Like, stop allowing this to happen. He says, the very fact, verse 7, the very fact that you have lawsuits among you means you have already been completely defeated already. Why not rather be wrong? Why not rather be cheated? Instead, you yourselves cheat and do wrong, and you do this to your brothers and sisters. So this is in the context of the local church. This is in the context of believers suing believers. But I think the principle here, I think stands. Why not rather be wronged? Why not rather be cheated? And Forrest, I'm not saying he was cheated. I'm not saying Forrest was technically wrong, because he did technically sign a contract. But when you hear the story, you go, man, that's pretty messed up. But I think that heart of like, man, why not rather be wronged? Why fight and create more drama and more legal fees and more issues for yourself? The headspace, it's exhausting to go through this. Why not rather be wrong? Why not rather be cheated for the sake of finding unity and moving forward? And I believe that Forrest's heart here, just being as congruent as he can with the Holy Spirit and with the ways of God, I think is one of the reasons why God breathed on what he's doing and took it to a whole nother level. I think there was that heart posture of like, Lord, it's yours anyway. And so when people are criticizing him, I tend to get defensive, because I know that Forrest is not someone that's built by the quote unquote machine. He's exploded despite it. Like, he's exploded and gone bigger despite it. He doesn't come from Nashville in the Christian music industry. He comes from Waco, Texas. And so I think that's why it's so refreshing to see it. And so when people attack him, I do tend to get defensive, because I know Forrest, but I also understand his come up was not something that came because he was put on by someone in the Christian music industry. He's completely outside of the Christian music industry, blew up independently, and has continued to thrive independently. Right? The label just gobbled up what he was doing. And so big shout out to Forrest Frank, man. I appreciate him sharing that story. Again, this is something that like I've known about for a while behind the scenes, and I'm so glad he's leaning into it. And I've said this to him before. I was like, bro, there's something so pure about how God is using you, that the more you lean into these conversations and you're just transparent, the asterisks next to your name shouldn't stand. And maybe that's me and being a more confrontational person. But I just like it when there's asterisks next to people's names who I know love Jesus and are doing their best with their time, talent, and treasure to honor God. And so let me know what you guys think about it. And if you guys want to hear my conversation with Forrest and Corey Osbury, we'll have this pinned over here. Awesome conversation of their relationship and reconciliation. And if you want to partner with what we're doing here, support what we're doing here, that would mean the world to me. Patreon's probably the best way to do that. We have a $6.99 tier, and it just helps you support, get us more interviews, help us improve the quality of what we're doing and all that good stuff. All right, so appreciate you guys. Oh, and also, yeah, keep me in prayer. My wife's about to have a baby soon, and I'll be taking probably a week or two off to kind of be present there. And so just be keeping in prayer. All right, guys, I got to go. Love you guys. Peace.